And no one fears 10-year-olds more than a politician. There was a 10-year-old who asked Reagan a question that resulted in the following answer. 80% of pollution comes from trees. Remember that one? Here's a man who before, when he was running for president and after he became president, said the following, documented before the press. Intercontinental nuclear missiles, once they're launched, they can always be recalled. Anyway, I said, what'd you accomplish? She stands up like this, little girl, and she says, totally left me speechless. I blushed with shame. Totally stands up like this, and she said, we now have soap. You know, shame on us. Shame on us. Schools like that all over the country. While the taxpayers are forced to fund the erection of these stadiums, ballparks, and arenas, while the schools and clinics crumble? What kind of arrogant priority that these corporations are imposing on us? These are corporations who bring politicians to their knees, wine and dine them, offer them jobs when they leave office, contribute to their campaigns, for sale signs on their forehead. What this country can be like? Just draw your own conclusions. Name me a major institutional injustice, deprivation, or problem that cannot be removed and replaced with the just society. The schools singing with beauty and learning and knowledge, where the students learn how to practice democracy. They study their community. They learn indirectly the pedagogy instead of trying to be told, memorize, regurgitate, vegetate. The environment, we have the sun. It's going to be around for 4 billion years, we're told. Good long-term planning. The sun, the great Commonwealth, the great commons, nobody owns it. I suppose if Exxon owned it, we'd have solar energy faster, but that's not acceptable. The sun comes closest to being the universal solvent to many of our environmental problems that are too charitably called pollution. Pollution is silent violence. It's cancer. It's respiratory ailments. It's blood disease. It's property damage. It's asthma. It's lead-based poisoning of poor minority kids, 200,000 of them a year, peeling off their crumbling tenement walls here in New York City as well. We don't need the fossil fuel devastation of our planet to continue unabated. We don't need radioactive waste from nuclear power plants that cannot be safely deposited for 200,000 years. We need to shut down Indian Point. Shut down Indian Point. Massively larger radioactive gas volume in those plants than the fallout from Hiroshima bomb or Nagasaki. And it's, what is it, 30-some miles from Manhattan, near a seismic fault. And of course, it's often stated that how did we ever get into this nuclear power situation? Have you ever seen a more reckless, a more expensive, a more devastatingly enduring technology whose only purpose is to boil water, to produce steam, to drive the turbines? We've got all kinds of solutions, but they're opposed by the fossil industry, fuel industry, by the nuclear power industry. Again, who says no? It's these corporations. No wonder 72% of the people polled by Businessweek said that corporations have too much control over their lives. They invade our privacy. They give us credit scores. They threaten our complaining nature against their lemon cars or other shoddy merchandise by saying, you keep complaining and your credit rating can be damaged. They control our money so that when they rip us off, all they have to do is debit us. They don't even have to ask for our checks anymore. $30 for a bounced check, Cost them $1.50, including fraud. It's a profit center. Just debit it. That's it. Just debit it. Affordable housing. The problem in housing has not been not enough federal programs. It's that A, there are not enough cooperative housing efforts. B, there's not enough money put in to housing. And C, we have developed a situation where a majority of the homeless people are working people and families, and and many Vietnam veterans. So we can go through one area after another, but what is important is the extent to which we can convey a level of civic motivation. And civic motivation is the prerequisite for political motivation. You have to be able to feel shame. I'm not much for guilt. I never liked Freud much, but shame really is a motivation. And I mean shame on ourselves. When we have the power, we allow our great country to be taken over by fewer and fewer giant corporations that have no allegiance to our country or our workers or our communities other than to control them or to abandon them as they see fit. Walmart, for example, tells its suppliers in this country, if they can't meet the China price for the products that they sell Walmart, then they should shut down, unemploy their workers, and move to China, where they can avail themselves of 37 cents an hour labor, not a living wage, but a dictatorially repressed wage by the communist regime. Not very patriotic, but it illustrates the commercial instinct knows very few self-restraints. It knows very few boundaries. After all, the cotton plantations had slaves. We still have companies in this country that subcontract with companies with horrible sweatshop labor, not just in third world countries, right here in New York City, where they work the immigrants in horrible conditions. One recently was located $2 an hour in a laundry. So there are no restraints on the commercial interests. Every major religion in the world understood this. That's why they told their adherents, don't give too much power to the merchant class. Put boundaries around them. They even reduced the status of the merchant class socially. And it's because the commercial instinct is so internally and monomaniacally driven that if it comes across civil values or human rights or a decent wage, it just rolls right over it. That's why we have the rule of law. That's why we should have more trade unions and repeal the Taft-Hartley Act and other obstacles to trade unions. That's why we need more facilities that make it easy for people to band together as insurance policyholders, health, life, accident. Band together as bank customers. Have their own full-time advocates, negotiating, challenging, redressing that huge imbalance between the corporations and the people in Albany or in the New York City Council or in Washington, D.C. Here the people rule is an old phrase. It doesn't operate. The people do not rule because the relentless advance of concentration of power, something so many of our presidents, including Lincoln, who spoke here with this exact podium, it's the same podium. Lincoln and Jefferson and Madison and Woodrow Wilson and Teddy Roosevelt and FDR. FDR was really tough. In a message to 1938 to Congress setting up the investigative commission, the TNEC, to investigate corporate power, he said the following: when our government is controlled by private economic power, that is fascism. That's Franklin Delano Roosevelt. People often talk about a land of opportunity. Let's look at what the land of opportunity has turned into, dominated by corporate supremacists. 47 million full-time workers make Walmart wages, 6, 7, 8, 9, under $10 an hour, before payroll deductions and the cost of going to work. Nobody can live on that, not even one person. The single mom who's been liberated, we're told, has to have 3 jobs